Brass Pittsburgh is hitting crowdfunding next week on Tuesday, March 24th. In support of Roxley Games in the upcoming campaign, we're releasing our reviews of each of the two current games in the Brass system, Lancashire and Birmingham. You can hear our full opinions on Pittsburgh on the 24th, as well as a full breakdown of how we compare each of the three games. Thank you again so much to Roxley for letting us be part of the run-up to Brass Pittsburgh. This has been a total blast to do so. Toot toot, Bat Family. Welcome to the next sponsored review that we are going on. Scott, how are you doing?
Beep, beep. I'm doing great.
Jason?
Chugging along.
So we are here to discuss Brass Lancashire. This was provided to us by Roxley Games, and this is the remake of Brass from 2007 by Martin Wallace. Brass Lancashire is also by Martin Wallace, and we were provided a deluxe edition of this, so we'll be discussing that. But we are here to have fun with a boat and train economic game. We will note, we are not super heavy, super optimal Brass players.
No.
You're all out there. You're as crazy as Wingspan fans.
And love you for it.
Yeah, all the power to you. We've only had a few cursory gameplays of it, so if we have not optimized things, let us know. We can play more. We can go ahead and learn more.
That's true. Like we said, this is a sponsor review. I have played both of these before we got into this process. You guys played it for the first times as we got into it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But now that we have kind of all the logistics out of the way, let's go ahead and get into how the game plays. So in this section, we're going to give a very high-level overview of how Brass plays. This is going to be largely the same systems that are present in all three games. When I originally wrote and recorded this section, it came in at about 20 minutes, which was just simply too long to put into our reviews. And if you're looking at the current timestamps, that means it basically doubled the length of these episodes. So I'm going to just cover the absolute basics of how the game works, what your possible actions are, as well as how the game transitions between eras and how the game ends. We are discussing releasing how to play videos onto our YouTube channel, and if we do so, we'll update this segment and the links in the show notes to reflect that. What you'll hear me say in the next segment is the truth, though. Brass has a very easy to comprehend rulebook, but it's a really long teach because making sure each player understands how these systems all work together is what truly makes it a complicated teach and gameplay experience. As a final note, please do not use this section to learn how to play the game. We're just giving you everything you need to have an informed idea for the rest of our review, and maybe get by if you're watching a live playthrough video, but you're not going to be able to actually sit down and play the game with just this knowledge. Brass, as a system, is one of high player interaction, highly economic, heavy Euro gameplay. The goal of the game, played across two eras, is simply to amass the largest industrial empire as represented by having the most points at the end of the game. The first era will end when the deck of cards has run out and all players have finished playing all cards from hand. Then a mid-game scoring and board reset will occur. We'll cover the era transition period after talking about the actions, but era 2 will end in the same way, where you will run out the deck, then run out players' hands. Then a final scoring will occur and the game will come to an end. On a player's turn, you will take 2 actions from a possible 5, 6 in Birmingham, and every action you take requires playing a card. In all but one of the actions, what's on the card doesn't actually matter, but for the one that does, it'll propel almost your entire strategy. The actions are build, network, develop, sell, take a loan. Once each player has played their 2 actions, you will determine turn order for the next round based on how much money each player spent in this round. Less money spent goes earlier, and then you will generate your income equal to your income level. This will almost always be gaining money, but if your income level is negative, then you'll have to pay it out instead. I'm not going to cover the rules for what happens if you can't pay, as that varies from game to game, but know that it's never a good thing to not be able to pay your income. So let's break down the 5 actions. We're going to do these a little out of order because building your network and understanding how it interacts with other players is the fundament of the entire game. The reason that Brass is such an interactive game is the network that players build. A player's network is defined by any position on the board that has either one or both of the following conditions. A location that has one or more of your industry tiles and or is adjacent to one or more of your link tiles. Link tiles are canal boats in Era 1 and trains in Era 2, but they must be built on the board adjacent to something that's part of your network, either an industry tile already on the board or a previously played link tile. While only one player can place a link tile on the connection of its type, canal or rail track, once it's in place it will allow any player to use it primarily for the sell action later in the game. Links are also important for scoring points at the end of each era, but what's important to know is that in Era 1 you can only build one link tile per action, but in Era 2, for a higher cost, you can build 1 or 2 link tiles per action. The build action. This is one of the most common actions that you'll be taking across the game, and it has the most restrictions on it. This is the one action that what is on your card actually matters. Cards in Brass have either a location, color-coded to give an idea of what region it's in, though the colors themselves don't mean anything else, or an industry that allows you to build it anywhere on the board. An important note when building is that you can technically build anywhere on the board, even if there are no city cards for it in your deck, either because of setup due to player count or the full amount of a specific city card just having already been used. Once you've discarded your cards though, you'll take the industry tile of whatever you're building from the lowest open position on your player board and place it into the city you are building in. Cities will normally have multiple spaces within them and will have either 1 or 2 icons on them. The icons will tell you what tiles are allowed to be placed there, and you can only put 1 tile per space. The lowest level of each industry tile will also tell you when it can be built. This is almost exclusively only in the first era, though there are certain industries that can't be built until the second. Many of these lowest level tiles you'll want or need to get rid of, but building might not be the right option to do so. We'll cover that in the next action, but once a tile is built, it's going to stick around based on whatever conditions are important to it. But know that any level 1 buildings will get cleared off the board at the end of Era 1, so it's best to keep in mind trying to build up as quickly as possible. Importantly, in Era 1, you can only build 1 tile per city, per player. Once Era 2 begins, players may build as many tiles as they want and are able to within each city. Develop. This action is arguably the most important action in the game that you just simply will not value properly until you've played the game a few times. Develop allows you to simply get rid of a tile off your player mat from the lowest position that still has a tile in any industry. You can get rid of either 1 or 2 tiles per develop action, and each tile removed costs a single iron. If you have any level 1 buildings left on Era 2, you will have to use Develop to get rid of them from your board before you can start building in the higher tiers. Thematically, these are the obsoleted technologies that simply don't match with the updated modes of production available in Era 2. Sell. This is the action that, other than network, is the most interactive with other players on the board. Very importantly, when you take the sell action, you can sell as much as you have the ability and desire to sell. You do not have to take 2 actions to sell 2 industry tiles, for instance. If you want to sell 5 different tiles and you can do so, then go nuts. I'm not going to cover more than that here because of time constraints, but know that this is by far the most different action between each of the brasses. Finally, taking a loan. Unlike many economic games, taking loans in Brass is not some terrible punishment to be undertaken. Instead, you're going to get a chunk of change immediately in return for a number of income levels. In Lancashire, you can take 10, 20, or 30 pound at the cost of 1, 2, or 3 income levels. Those are the full levels and gold circles, not the individual steps as represented on the VP track. In Birmingham, the only option is 30 pounds for 3 levels. Thematically, the loss of the income level is the repayment needed across time for the loan, but it means that in gameplay terms, once you've gained your loan, all needs related to it are completed and you don't have to worry about it moving forward. You don't have to repay anything at the end of the game or worry that you're losing points or anything like it. It's as easy as get your money, lower your income, continue. Because turn order in a round is determined by how much money a player has spent, this does allow you to play around with some strategy with getting more money, which is always useful, and spending less to try and get a better turn position next round. Once the era ends, when the deck and all players' hands have run out, there will be a variety of scoring categories, and depending on which era it is, there will be some differences there in what happens. At the end of Era 1, the Canal era, you'll score each of the canal links that are out there and physically remove them from the board. They are now an obsolete technology that is no longer used in Era 2. You'll score any flipped industry tiles, and if that tile is a level 1, remove it from the board completely. That means that after these 2 scoring steps, you'll have a significantly reduced footprint on the board, and if your opponents have positioned themselves better than you, see why develop is so important, then you might be going into the second half of the game vastly underprepared. Once that's out of the way, you'll reset any needed tracks or resources on the board, reset the draw deck, and deal out new hands to players. If it's the end of Era 2, the Rail era, then after scoring your link tiles and flipped industry tiles, if you're playing Lancashire, you'll score money at a rate of 1 point per 10 pounds in hand, but in Birmingham, you don't gain anything for any extra money left in hand. In both games, your income level simply doesn't matter at all beyond being the first tiebreaker. If still tied after the income level, then it's most money left in hand. If you're still tied after those two conditions, then the game is simply tied. Regardless, the player with the most points wins, and that's sort of how you play brass. Learning curve and ease of teach. Per normal, I was the one that had read the rules, learned the game, taught the game. Again, it helps that I had played it before.
True.
How did you guys feel it was to learn Brass Lancashire?
There's a lot of moving parts in this game. There are some that have more, that feel heavier. This wasn't horrible. And I think it definitely helps that I've played enough board games that didn't... I felt overwhelmed at one point, but then like all of a sudden it just kind of ironed itself out.
Sure.
There is a very complicated teach, I think, with this one. So it is definitely for more experienced players, heavier Euro-wise. And I think that for a lot of us, and I'm sure there's plenty more out there, that learn better by doing, I think it was a lot more effective in the first round or two to kind of understand and dip your toes in what you're needing to do and what you can't quite do for everything to kind of click and make sense.
Sure.
So after having a solid teach, it was pretty easy to get into the game and start moving, especially after seeing at least a turn or two. And then you're like, all right, well, then I can do this. And I can, after the first game, you pretty much have it down, which is great. So I think overall it's going to be like medium to heavy, but it's not going to go and be something that is going to melt my brain when it comes to just the teach. Do I want to learn this at 2 a.m? No, but I think it's doable.
Yeah, I think the teach is actually very easy to do because the rules are not complex. There's actually not a ton of them for as many moving parts as there are. It is very easy to grip together, but the teach itself is mostly making sure that everybody at the table understands the interactions of what is there, because you only have those few different types of actions to work with. You only have 2 actions per turn. There's some really straightforward mechanisms going on here, but the intricacies and the interactions of how am I going to use my stuff versus your stuff, all those decisions are something that, like Jason said, it's not something you really cross in the teach. You just kind of have to play it for a little bit at first.
Yeah.
And for me, when I learned it the first time, it was that grip of, wait a minute, so you're using my stuff, and in the process, like, I'm benefiting from it, but I'm also kind of not. It's a weird thing that you need to make sure that the players understand that, unlike a lot of other dry Euro games, and I don't think this one's dry, but it is easy to look at the box and be like, ooh, it's another industrialist on the cover. There's a lot of interaction here. There's a lot going on. I think you're right by calling it mid to heavy, because when you're experienced and you see a lot of stuff, especially player counts can change the length of the game, and we'll cover that later, but understanding it all does take a minute. Thankfully, I think the teach is very easy, if long, because you need to cover all the various things despite not being a lot of rules. I do think it is easy to teach once you understand how to teach it.
I would agree with that.
That's fair.
Artwork, components, iconography.
Ooh, boy. I really, really like this. From the box was gorgeous on the outside. Just the extra, like, filigree that's there. The artwork that has been put upon the game. It just ekes extravagance from the box itself. And then when you get into the box, you just start seeing all of it come together. The board is fantastically put together. The map is gorgeous. Everything is laid out very beautifully on here. Very much in the period of time that it is placed.
It is eminently readable.
Yes.
Which makes playing the game so much easier, because it is so easy to read and understand, oh, this is the industry that goes here. This is the connection to here. If the art weren't as clean and it weren't as strong of iconography, because there is a surprising amount of iconography, but it's all easy to grip onto because it's just so well laid out.
Like what Jason said, they made it look like it fit with the time period. Like, this looks like a map that we probably could have seen at that period of time, or we have history of that have been in books of that style, that font, those colorings, rich and still slightly muted colors that are for each of the colors of the regions that you're in. It screams it. It definitely sits there and holds its weight and sits there and tells you, hey, This is a part of our history.
It also invokes the region we're in very well because we're in the northern part of Britain while we're doing this. And so you have the ocean on the one side where you are able to see, oh, this is where all the ports and all the shipyards are there. You
So
have all the canals further on the right side of the game because they needed to be there. It is just so easy to look at. And even when there are tokens and tiles and cubes and everything else, it never feels overwhelming.
No.
It just speaks to impeccable graphic design here.
It's very well laid out. You know what to look for. It was just nice to sit there because, we sat in our normal spots when we were playing the game, and to sit there and go, I could see what I was needing all the way on the far side of the board because it's big, it's crisp, it's clear. I love it.
I think the other thing to just mention right here is, for as much is going on in this game, as beefy and interactive as it is, it does not take a lot of table space. Your player boards are tight. The board itself, for being as well laid and clean as it is not oversized. It's just a standard 4-fold board. I am so impressed by what they managed to put into this production and keep it as smooth and as good as it is without just flooding the table with junk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they put the deluxe together really does make it feel deluxe. They have some really, really pretty pieces in here. I love the tokens that we get to use. They are gorgeous. The weight, the feel of them, awesome.
Oh, the coins, the iron clays?
Yep. Those are fantastic. Even the player tokens, flip sides, like they're very consistent with all of the other artwork on here. And I really do enjoy that from the actual instruction manual into the board itself, you actually have the history and those characters that you were playing. There is the breakdown of like, this is their history, this is why they're notable in history. And it gives you that kind of sense to give that connection to the time frame as well.
For what we're looking at as far as the deluxe edition, there's actually not a ton of things different. The first being, like Jason mentioned earlier, they foiled the box, so it's a little prettier that way. There's a tray system inside because there's also a rack of iron clays in there, which are great. Weirdly, it's not a full rack. They offer a fill-in pack essentially for a few extra bucks if you want that. We ended up using the full set of iron clays because I did fill in the rack, but I also have a 200-piece iron clay box because I got iron clays years ago and they're just so much fun to play with. The actual retail edition is just standard cardboard and it's the same thickness across both editions and it holds up very well. I think the components and production on this, it's Roxley, right? Would we expect anything less?
No. Yeah, I think if they would have done anything less, we would have been like, excuse me?
I also really enjoy the player aids on either side, especially the flip side where it shows the card count for each one of the cities or the towns, villages, what have you, all of the burgs. Depending upon what you have, that is a really cool notation that you can tell, all right, well, somebody's already played the 3 that are in this, so I know that one's not coming up again. That is something that's really nice and helps to the tactical side of the game.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to setup, that same iconography is so clean of you look on the side of the card, this is the player count that's there. So it even helps you just look at your cards and know, oh, this is supposed to be here. And then, like you said, on the player aid, you're just able to see, oh man, all 3 of the Ellesmere Port or however many there are, they're out. Okay, now I know how I'm going to use this card.
Yep. Also, the coal and the iron bits that you had for the upgrades were from
Meeple Source.
Yeah, they were.
Yes. So inside the box, both retail and deluxe, you're going to see standard orange and black cubes. They are very nice cubes. They are sizable. They feel appropriate. But look, we're sponsored by Meeple Source as well. And I have the upgrades for that. So we use the upgraded coal bits and the upgraded iron bars. They're great. I love them. They are not part of the product that Roxley provides, but, Meeple Source is great. We're going to use their stuff.
Yeah.
And if you go to any convention, they're probably both there. So nice and easy to go ahead and go from one booth right to the other booth.
Absolutely.
There is one thing that I had that was a teensy, not even a criticism, but it would have been nice if the canal connections might have been a little bit more prominent or a little bit bigger compared to the rails, because I know when we played there were a couple times, at least in the further side, when I was looking at some of those thin pieces, and I was like, oh, can I go and make a connection over there? Oh, no, there's no canal over there. Ah, okay. I need to make sure that I have to go this way instead. That is the only thing that I had that was a critique on this. Everything else is chef's kiss.
Replayability and player count. Let's start with the player count because we have, as a group, only played it at 4.
Right.
I have also played them at 2 players.
Okay.
And I like it at both counts. I have not gotten to play either of them at 3, but what is nice is even though the deck is set up, here are the regions that are in play for your player count, because of the way the industry cards work and the fact that you can just drop 2 cards and play anywhere, you can still access parts of the board even if you don't have the direct card for it, which is a really, really nice little touch. I think the player count, honestly, you're just looking at extending the game out as far as time goes, but the interaction is just as high. It is more interesting with more people because you're seeing more of the board get developed. But at the same time, when you're just playing it 2 people, it is this really interesting balance of there's your port, here's my cotton, I'm going to make sure to use your stuff. And you're able to set things up in a really interesting way that is more predictable than it is in a 4-player game.
That totally makes sense. I think probably my favorite part about this is since we didn't only play at the 4-player count, it didn't feel like how some 4-player games can go where it's like, when is it my turn?
There's no drag. Yeah.
There's no drag. And plus also paying attention to that felt important in this game. So like it makes me interested what it would be like at a 2-player to 3-player game, because if I had to pay as much attention as I did in a 4-player game, reduce it by 1 person, reduce it by 2 people, it means I really have to be paying attention to the board state constantly.
I think I would probably prefer this with 3 to 4. The 2-player, you can definitely get that adversarial edge, but I would rather save the reasoning for it for another segment.
Sure, that's fair. As far as replayability goes, I mean, it's high. It's really high.
Oh, yeah.
It does all the best things of what cards do I have in my hand? How am I going to approach this? How am I going to try and optimize? Because this is a game that rewards you for digging in and playing time after time. And it's something that I noticed over my multiple plays is that I got better. I understood the system more and realizing, oh, that develop action is arguably the most important thing in the game.
Huge.
Because the turns are so fast, because it is, here's my 2 actions, great. There's enough ways around any downtime or anything like that where I just want to keep coming back to this because I can get better and I think it is more interesting. There's something to be said about trying to meet my opponents on their level and dragging everybody up, because I feel like this is a game that you will get better at over time.
Since this isn't a game that I normally would play, you're exactly right. It feels like something the next time I play it, I'm going to do it better than I did the first time. And that replayability is very high. And the fact that we didn't see everything. I know we went through all the cards, but like, I don't know if I did everything that I could do with the game, or I saw everybody's strategies. We all had a different strategy. Some are more successful than others. And even some of the ones that I did, I mean, it's like, oh, hey, that worked, but the other thing didn't, So, I mean, how do you want to try to win the game? I think it's just really interesting.
Sure.
I think there's a huge amount of replayability in here. It aids to throwing more coals in the fire and really letting it churn to go ahead and see what you feel is your most efficient way to get more income and get more points. I talk about it a lot in some of these heavier games that we play where after you do it once or twice, you are really feeling in the middle of those games and towards the end of them, that brain burn that is like, oh, okay, I really see what the potential is in here. Maybe I can try this next time, or maybe I can do that next time, or hey, their strategy really worked. Maybe if I tweak that a little bit and add a little bit of my own in there, we're going to go ahead and give this a try. So it really opens your mind to many, many possibilities to go ahead and play through this and just to bounce around and see what other people's strategies are going to be, because there's plenty in here. There's not really a particular meta that I can find when I'm thinking about it. So it really just depends upon your other opponent's strategies.
Between what they're doing and everybody's experience level, I think that certainly plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
What's to like? What's to dislike? I think there's a lot to like here. I will say at the jump, I'm actually going to go to the what's to dislike first, and that's if you do not like economic games, if you do not like having to balance money and actions and really be extremely tactical, this is not going to be the game for you.
Correct.
If you like high player interaction, I think it's a very strong positive to the game, but you are setting up a shared infrastructure on the board. And so if you don't like people coming in and messing with your stuff, even to your benefit, bypass this, right? Because that is the entire game is, oh, cool, thanks for putting the coal out. I'm going to use your coal.
I mean, we had a game where literally it was someone put a transport to a spot and I was the one that was able to jump onto it faster. It's that way. It's just how that game works.
The other, I think, big thing to dislike, this does actually affect my score of the game, is you are fairly well locked in by what cards you have in your hand. And yes, there is the, I can spend my entire turn to do one action, but now you've essentially given up an action, and that feels like putting yourself behind. So if you were expecting a perfect, tight, precise, I can do this to do this to do this, you might not be able to based on your cards. Yes, there's the escape valve, but I don't know that you ever want to essentially use that escape valve.
I really do like the player interaction for the game, and I like how many different avenues you can take and different strategies you can have. One point that you hit that really affects my enjoyment and my score of it is the shared industry portion. If it got tweaked a little bit, I think it would really change it and make it so that it wasn't as much of a letdown when it comes to putting out specific places, specifically putting out the ironworks or the coal mines, putting those out because you need that product because you can't reach one of your distant markets. You're putting it out there because you're trying to go ahead and grow out your industry. And I feel like one Achilles heel that this has is people can just take your things and then you just don't have anything to be able to go ahead and help you build up what you're trying to make. And it really can hamstring you throughout the game, which makes it very difficult for me. And that's why I think in 3 and 4 players, it's a little bit more advantageous for me and more enjoyable because there's more people that are going to be doing different strategies. Or maybe, you know, if somebody's going after some person, yeah, other people might be going after other people.
Well, it also means there's more resource tiles out there too.
To be shared. Now, if there's only 2 people, then we played a game like Caesar, for example, where if you're just playing one after the other, the hard part is I'm going to put this out there, but now that means that the other side of it is open for you just to go and monopolize on it. And one of the things that I experienced was putting out coal or putting out iron, and I know that I needed that for my next turn or for a turn after that, and then it got eaten up. I have nothing to be able to go ahead and build my infrastructure for.
Now, that said, I think the fact that there is access to the coal markets is important. The fact that that is there. Yes, you have to pay for it, and that is really where the knife can kind of come out when people use your stuff. But because it is fairly easy to get to that market, so long as you're attached to a port or, you know, Scotland, Yorkshire, Midlands, it's easy enough to access that market. I think the other thing that helps me in that is that when you take a loan in this game, it is not punishing.
No.
It is honestly to your benefit to take a loan fairly early. Yes, you're losing an action to do it, but you actually don't need a super high income to win the game. And I think that is a really, really good twist on the game. So when I'm sitting there, and yes, people have used up my coal, thankfully my income has gone up and I have scored my points for it. And if I really need to, okay, I'm just going to knock my income level down a little bit and I'm just going to take more money. And depending on how it works, because when you build a coal market or the ironworks and you are connected to the markets, if they're empty, you're automatically filling it, which on one hand is great because you're making money. But on the other hand, I may now have to spend that money to get my stuff right back. So I actually like that interaction between the players and the board of I get to use your stuff, because for me it is not super punishing, but I also feel like if you are banking on having your stuff and you are like, okay, this is my coal, this is my money, I'm perfectly lined out, crap, he just took my coal and now I am 1 pound short. That can bite.
Well, and that is the whole point of that comment. And I think with your counterpoint, it hinges on you being connected to the markets. If you're not connected to the markets, you're SOL.
Yeah.
So you need to go ahead and make sure that you are connected to those markets. And in all fairness, for Lancashire, it's not that hard to get connected to them. So one pro tip is just to go ahead and make sure that you're always connected to a distant market just in case.
Yeah.
Completely agree, because it does seem like it's one of those things of, I know several times when I was trying to sell stuff, I'm going to sell it to this thing, and then all of a sudden someone else would use it. I'm like, yeah, I got the points, but then you also got points, and that really like irks me. And I'm like, how dare you get points off of my thing? Like, yeah, I got my points, but you also got points, and that just drives me crazy. But I mean, piggybacking off what Jason said, yeah, it's one of those things of like, yeah, I have to either make sure I'm connected to that market or connected to a port and hope no one steals my stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't play it if you're, this is mine.
Now that said, I think the sheer amount of how do I want to do this is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because this is a game that, like we said in the previous segment, rewards you for coming back, for digging in, for realizing, okay, I know I could build on my level 1 cotton mills, and that's great, but it's not efficient. Maybe it's just worth me paying the iron and getting rid of 2 of them and moving up to the next level.
Yeah.
That constant evaluation of what am I doing? Where is it beneficial? Is it benefiting other people as well for me to do something? I think it is just a really great melange of decisions.
I love specifically the ironworks in here because not only is that a prime factor to increase and build, but the option of using your iron to develop is just so neat because not only is that chipping away at some of the lower end sides that you need to get rid of eventually, but it gets you that much closer to being able to flip your ironworks too, which is just such a great mechanic in here.
The other major thing that I absolutely adore about this is the network system where you're building your links and you have my boats are here and I'm looking at Liverpool and I'm attached to Liverpool and Southport and Wigan, and then all of a sudden here is Jason's stuff that is connecting me from Wigan to Preston and Preston to Lancaster. But then if I have a building up in Lancaster, I can still connect up to Scotland. And being able to just use everybody's network, that this isn't a ticket to ride type system of
Right.
I have cut your line off. No, I'm using yours. And there's no inherent benefit that you get from me using your stuff beyond I can just get across. We are building shared infrastructure. And I really, really like that about this game.
It's that realization. It's like, oh, great, you can get all the way across the country. Oh, wait, so can I.
Right.
You're exactly right. It's not a ticket to ride thing where it's like, haha, I've taken Nashville to Atlanta, and now you got to go around me. It's, haha, you want to ride my boat?
So final thoughts. Where are we at on this?
I've looked at this box, I don't know how many times, and have put it down multiple times because I'm just like, this is not my game. It's still technically not my game, but this is a 7 because it's a solid game. I would play it again. It'd be one of those things I'd have to be in the mood for because of the weight of the game. I'm that mid-weight, happy fun time boy, not this could get kind of heavy. Can be pretty serious. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
I have a couple things that have brought it down, but as I've said, some of that I'm going to get your stuff instead of build my own stuff has taken it down a little bit because it feels like, at least to me, when somebody uses your product, you not getting anything for it like what they would have spent in the market should go to the player. That's just a personal opinion. But when you don't have that in there and it is a freebie, it does tend to have a feel bad of you could be building up all of this stuff that we need and then everybody else can just take it from you for free. And while you do get some income increases to use for the next round, if they go in front of you, you might be SOL because you're a couple of pounds short. So with that being said, and the overall theme is not something that I am inherently interested in, I'm still giving this a high 8, even to a 9, because the game itself is immensely intriguing. I love seeing everybody else's strategy in here and what can be done. I think that there are a multitude of different ways, and as Mark prefaced before, the brass heads are out there and they have put out all of the different schemes and strategies that you can put out there to maximize your income and loans to just get a ton of points. I think that it looks gorgeous, and it is a not as chunky time as we have had with a lot of other heavy Euro games. Mm-hmm. to the point where we can go ahead and put this down, even if it's getting a little bit later, and I'll still go ahead and jump on this game for a couple hours. So high 8 to a 9, easy.
So I'm a 9. There's part of me that looks at this and says, why is this not a 10? Because on the right day, I think I could be convinced into that.
Yeah.
But where I have to look at the game, and these are the flaws that I see, and I think they are impactful, is the luck of the cards. For as long-term strategy and short-term tactics, and how am I going to pivot? What am I building towards? How am I doing things? How am I interacting with this really cool infrastructure we're doing? I can't build where I need to build. I just simply can't. And it could be because I have been just shut out because both spots in Warrington and Runcorn are taken, or it could be because, oh no, I already built in Liverpool and it's the canal area. There's some frustration that I have with the cards. And we didn't really cover it much in our prior bits of discussion, but the distant markets I think are great. I like the system for getting that little bit of extra income since you're only flipping one tile. But I feel like the randomness of the tiles themselves, the fact they can be -1 step all the way to -4 steps, it can really be a bummer if all the ports that are out there have been used and nobody's ever built them. The distant market can be really, really long, or it can be just over and done with in like 3 deliveries.
Yeah.
But man, I love the high interactivity. I love the balance of, yes, it's your port and it's my cotton. I'm using your port. I don't care. I need the benefits. I want this flipped. I want to make sure of X, Y, and Z thing. Maybe it's a tactical choice. If I use your port, that means that you don't get to use it. And so you're only getting one flip when you do your cotton, whatever. It has really great interaction in a way that it could feel knifey. It could feel mean in the way that a game like Barrage does. But because that positive effect of my income is going up, I am getting points for this. I am generating links for scoring off of my network. And, maybe that's more worthwhile for me because I'm surrounded with everything. There's great decisions here. I love the interaction. I love the look of the game. Even being as pale as you were talking about it being, it is so evocative of what's going on. I'm able to lose myself in this game in a way that few games of its weight and type do. I am not normally a big economic game person. I love this one. I wish some of that luck wasn't in there, but man, that's about where my complaints lay. So this is a very strong 9 for me.
That's wholeheartedly fair.
So thank you again to Roxley for providing us with this copy of Brass Lancashire. I think we can say across the board this is something that we all really enjoyed. I understand why this is in the top 20 in BGG very, very easily.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I was not expecting to like the game how I did. This was fun.
If anybody has listened to previous episodes, they have heard me talk about the game Summer Camp, which is something where I have absolutely no interest in the overarching theme of it, but the game itself is just so interactive and so much fun to play when you put it on the table. But I love the game. Not only does this game do that, but I'm actually caring about the eras that we're getting into, and the amount of times that I looked over at somebody and just went, industry, was great.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it provides the historical background right in there. It allows you to feel the importance of the era and make you want to go look it up. And I think that there are some historical games out there that definitely don't do that, and this one absolutely doesn't.
Like, you feel the weight of the history is in this.
So thank you again to Roxley for providing us the game. And guys, we will catch you on the next one.